Don Camber.
Hello, I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest impacting our community in a positive way. Today I welcome Mission San Juan Capistrano Executive Director Michelle Lawrence Adams. For just over 17 years, she has overseen the 7th of the 21 missions that was established in California in 1776. It's located in downtown San Juan Capistrano. Thank you, Michelle, for being on Impact OC.
Great to be here, Dawn. I'm so happy to be with you for today.
Michelle, the mission is a place of historical, cultural, and religious significance, as well as a place of inspiration and education. How were you able to accomplish this during COVID?
Oh my goodness, COVID has definitely brought about a lot of challenges for not only the mission, but everybody. And first of all, our hearts and our prayers truly do go out with everybody battling this challenging year, and especially our frontline workers. I feel so privileged to work in a place where the meaning of the mission is something that is even more important in a situation like the one we're in with the pandemic. And although we're closed and it's really devastating financial and operational challenges in terms of timing right now, the reality is that the mission's been around for 245 years and we're not going anywhere. And we are so blessed to have the community support. And so we are delivering some programming that we wouldn't be delivering if we didn't have COVID. And one of those is this month we're debuting online prayer petitions on Fridays with picking different groups that we want the community to think and hold in their hearts, regardless of their faith tradition. So you can light a candle on our website, a virtual candle, and we'll be starting that in the coming weeks. The other thing is that we've pivoted to virtual tours and virtual education programs. And believe it or not, the public is responding really positively. So you can never replace an on-site experience here. But what we can do is think about what's missing. And what's been missing is some of our Native American history and making sure we're doing a better job on that. So we've partnered with members of the local tribe, the Hashiman people, and produced a whole series of programs called In Our Voice that people can reserve recorded experiences of storytelling, music, prayer, and seeing some of the culture, bell ringing ceremonies. And we've been selling that program all through the state of California. And so now we're reaching schools in Sacramento for the first time. And so even though this is a very, very tough year, there is some silver lining in some of the opportunities.
So how are people able to access this?
Well, on our website, and of course, everybody's website is probably undergoing a revamp right now because of the virtual side of things. But on the at-home section, there will be, and there is, areas where you can learn about taking your class, your 4th grade class, or your student group can do a live guided tour. We actually have an individual that sets themselves up with a cam and a phone, and they walk around and give tours virtually, and the kids or the public or the adults can be experienced in a chat room, ask questions, or they can ask questions depending on the size of the group. Today I was walking the grounds and there I saw one of our staff walking around. The mission's completely empty, and he was giving a tour to 50 kids because I checked later on how many people were on that tour. Whereas before, any tour that happened had to be on site and you could see the impact of your reach. So on our website, we have the live guided tours, the recorded tours, the 4th grade tours. We even have produced, using drone and technology, flyovers so that people can see the mission from above or go through the gardens. We did a tour that's just a quick YouTube video of walking the grounds and going to church, going into the chapel and feeling what that feels like. And then, of course, we did Earth Day last year virtually, and we're going to do Earth Day again. And we've been doing lectures. And so all those things are on our website is the number one thing you can do.
And you're probably reaching more people now than you ever would.
Well, I thought that it's just devastating. All of the impact of COVID, we've lost about 40 employees. We've shuttered our doors. We've shuttered our doors to students, to people that are fighting cancer that want to come here, to families. So there's a lot of, cancellations. But the positive of what's come out of it is innovation and in-house innovation. None of us is an expert in any of this situation, and yet we have to put our best face and foot forward, coming up with creative ideas. And so in-house, we've been producing these different experiences and testing the waters. And last week, We had our first Canadian tour. So we had 4 people on the tour, and it was $45. It's $45 for a tour that's not a student tour. And they had a tour in Canada. They all got together on their little devices. They all had their glass of wine, and they signed up for a tour, and we gave them that experience, and they were able to have an engaged experience and not even come to California. So, and then we have a whole bunch of tours being booked in Northern California right now, 4th grade students and their teachers and parents, because parents are doing a lot of the teaching now, as you know. They're booking the live guided tour through our bookings department, and we're seeing kids from Mammoth, and we're seeing them from Sacramento, and they love it because they would never come to a Southern California mission. So everything's through the website is bottom line.
And I want to point out that your audio tours let you hear what was going on at the mission during the historic times. I mean, you really feel that you're back in history.
Yeah, we're pretty proud that we've been able to deliver the audio tour online. And there's another program that we recently also offered. And it's part of the packages that we offer, but it's called the 360 tour. And the 360 architectural tour, we were able to get a student from Chapman and hire them. And they went into all these really special spaces of the mission, some that the public can't even get to. And they use a 360 camera. And then we accompany that with a study guide and information. And they can listen to the audio tour at the same time. So they can actually go in to the Sarah Chapel or go into the ruins or go into the wine vat down below in the ground. And we wouldn't normally allow them to go in that space or the vestry dome. And so it's kind of cool. And it's really neat because you just look at your phone and turn and you can be in a room. And so a lot of museums are doing that. And we did it on a shoestring budget, and the team did a great job.
Well, tell us some of the highlights of the mission.
Well, you know, to me, the highlight is the minute you get here and you walk through the gatehouse, because it's such a sense of arrival, and with intention that you feel that way when it was designed over 8 years ago and opened. So the gatehouse sets the tone. You're greeted by a wonderful keystone that's holding up the arch that says 1776 with 2 little swallow birds with forked tails. No other mission has that. And you walk through that beautiful arch and you see the spread of the incredible front courtyard. So I think that really, you know, right from the beginning, you know you're somewhere special. And you can kind of slow down and take a deep breath and bring in the orange smells and the flowers. And there's a lot of hummingbirds. On a good day, you're going to see something pretty for sure. And on a bad day, you're still going to see something beautiful because the light is different. And then the other is the store. So if the mission's closed, you still can get a feel for the mission by coming into the mission store, because it's all been designed with the mission experience in mind. And you can look into the window and see the mission. We're still doing photo shoots here, private little photo shoots for families. But other than that, you know, our operations are shut down. So the best way to see the mission when you come in, if we're closed, is to go experience the store and make sure you get a rain check to come back. But once you get into that front courtyard, there's a couple places that are highlights. Everything's beautiful, but I love to take people into the ruins of the Great Stone Church. And that was a big giant church building that fell in an earthquake of 1812, and 40 people perished in that earthquake. And they were baptized Catholics, but Native American. And so we recently, it's not been seen by the public yet, installed a beautiful bronze marker in that location when you first come in, and near the bell wall. You'll see a list of all the victims who perished, their Native American name and their baptized Catholic name. And we honor and recognize that they built the mission, and then they perished under the very weight of their own efforts. The bell wall is one of my favorites, but behind the bell wall is a little teeny kind of romantic, intimate space called the Sacred Garden. And a lot of people like to get proposed to there or have their pictures taken. Many a young man has called me over the years and said he wanted to do a proposal there. And everybody on the team here, the smaller team these days, we all get excited. You know, we're romantics at heart. Like, oh, okay, there's a proposal. It's kind of exciting. And we talk to the mom of the groom or the mom of the bride to be. Hopefully she's going to say yes, right? And so Sacred Garden, in my personal opinion, is just the most romantic. For kids, you have to go to the cemetery because the cemetery is spooky and it's interesting and it's old, and you get a chance to learn about some of the religious rites of the tradition of the Catholic Church and how people were buried in the 18th century to today. and what it meant to have a cemetery. All the people that built the mission were buried right there. And then you go into the Sarah Chapel, which is the jewel of the jewels. So I see all these places in Orange County saying they're the jewel of California. And I kind of roll my eyes because Father Sarah named Mission San Capistrano the jewel of the California missions. And there is no other jewel as far as I'm concerned, because once you get on this property, you can see there's something special on the property, whether you're Catholic or not. And you walk into Sarah's chapel and you see this golden retablo. And that's a fancy word. It just means altarpiece. And it's a gilded altarpiece. It sits behind the altar and it's all hand carved, over 400 years old. It's gorgeous. And to think that all the millions of people that have come here over the last 100 years, all the prayers that have been said in Sarah Chapel, all the suffering and all the inspiration that comes about in a place like this, I just think it's so hallowed. And I know so many people that have come into Sarah Chapel to look at the paintings because they're historic, or to discover the 200-year-old painting we found 5 years ago that was hidden behind another painting for 40 years. So the Sarah Chapel is like, to me, you have to see it. Whether you're a religious person or not, you'll feel something and you'll think, wow, this is a church that's lasted for over 240 years, when so many things are under fire and there's so much change and challenge going on around us. To go to a place that has that integrity, and to think how many babies were baptized, how many weddings were exchanged in vows, and how many passings of good people were, their lives were celebrated and mourned here. And I take that very seriously when I walk into that property. I think, wow, the Sarah Chapel's a highlight. But for partying and having a good old time with family and kids and events, it's always a central courtyard, which is anchored by a beautiful fountain of old koi fish that are giant. Most people's cats are not as big as our koi fish. And we love to have the kids feed the koi fish. We sell koi fish food for $1 a bag. It's a great way to feed our fish. We give the kids something to do and they pay for our koi fish food. So it's a net positive. And the kids love to visit the fish because they have these big gaping mouths, and some of the children over the years have named them. We have Darth Vader, with Pocahontas. We have all these names that they've given, whether they're politically correct or not. These are kids. So I'm not going to correct the kids, all right? I don't want to offend anybody out there, but when the kids come, they find a little pink koi and they're like, oh, it's a ballerina. I'm like, sure, it's a ballerina. So I think the koi fish bring a lot more joy. And it's so funny because kids are all on their screen time and they're all able to go to, fancy places, and they come to our little koi fish and it's like magical. And I stand by that. It is purely magical. And we hope they don't fall in the fountain in the process. That's always a challenge. And they'll put their hands in the water because it's pretty gross, but they're pretty great. And then I would say the museum rooms are probably the underappreciated side of the mission, because people are outdoorsy in California, and it's like, what? I'm going to go inside when it's so pretty outside with these gardens. But if they just go into the rooms beside Sarah Chapel, they're going to learn something, whether they like it or not, and they're going to be inspired, and they're going to see things that they had no idea we have in our collection, like, amazing, beautiful plein air art paintings, which are like the 20th century landscape paintings that kind of tell a story of what the mission looked like in the 20th century, in the early 20th. And then they're going to go and discover like old religious objects, or they're going to see old newspapers with headlines of World War II, and Mission San Juan Capistrano is right in the headline of World War II that the swallows are coming back. Like, it's crazy to find something like that. And then we have just an incredible collection of objects and artifacts. We have a crucifix. I think it's so cool. It's silver, and he's in the treasures collection, but he has a bullet hole over Christ's head on the crucifix. And that means someone in the early 20th century shot a gun, and it went through the cross, and the cross was intact. And then we found the cross in our collection, and we polished it up and brought it back to beauty, and now it's on display. When you come next time, I hope to show it to you. And then in 05 to 08, when we were doing the conservation of the Sarah Chapel, Sam, our preservation manager, was doing some wall repairs, and he found a bullet behind the altar where the crucifix would have stood. And he's like, I think I found the bullet that went through that crucifix. Now, whether that's a tall tale or it's history, we don't know, because no one told us. We just found these objects. So it's really interesting to find things of the past that you think, you think in your head, oh, the mission must be so organized and knows everything about itself as an institution. But over time, as a preservationist, I've learned that we have to ask questions and we have to dig a little deeper and not assume anything. And so we found the 40-year-old painting. We found a Derringer gun in a dig that was from the 1860s. We found original wedding pottery from the 1840s that was in a dig, a Wedgwood, and we did research on it and found that's traditional pottery that's given. Maybe it was the Forster family's pottery from when they lived here as a couple and not as priests, because the mission was in private ownership from 1840s, 1860s. And during that time, there was a woman here that was raising her family. Maybe that was her wedding pottery, because I can't imagine it was anyone else's. So there's a lot of stories in the rooms. Most people forget to go in them. And then just the gardens, our gardening angels and O'Connell Landscape Maintenance were such good partners. Honestly, I don't know what we do without them. They just seem to revive the gardens. Every time I want to complain that there's a bunch of dead roses in one place, the next time I go, they're all in bloom and it's spectacular. So I don't know how they work so fast. It's amazing.
What about the swallows? The mission is known for the return of the swallows on St. Joseph's Day, March 19th, which is ingrained in my brain.
My name tag has one swallow on it because we don't want to overcount the swallows out there, but they are still coming. All right. And here's the cool part. Last year, we closed on I think it was March 8th, March 13th. It was a Monday. And St. Joseph's Day was coming on March 19th. And I think at that time I was very naive. I thought, oh, I wonder if we're going to reopen for St. Joseph's Day. And I want to cancel it. Well, we all know what happened next after we all shut down. It was a good 90 days before we were able to open again. And it was a very serious time. Of course, the swallows come back that year. Of course. And I'm thinking, I'm yelling at them, why are you here? Come back next year. Well, now I don't know what's going to happen this year. So maybe this little break from everything is going to bring the birds back. You know, there's less traffic and less pollution, less commuters, people are working at home. So I think that the future bodes well for the swallows of Capistrano.
Can you describe what a swallow looks like? Someone has told me that it is a bird that looks like it's inebriated. What do you think? That's what I've heard.
I have to keep this wholesome. We're on a family programming, but I would say they're like little darting. They're just, you know, you want to think a sparrow at first, but they're bigger than a sparrow. And we have several types of swallows. So in the 20th century, everybody just talked about swallows as oh, there's only one kind. Well, we brought a bird expert. The fancy word is an ornithologist. We brought a bird guy, and we brought another bird guy, and we brought the expert on swallows, Dr. Charles Brown out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, who I just love dearly, the sweetest guy. I think he kind of looks like a swallow too, and I know he's not listening today because his beard is getting gray and he's getting multicolored with his hair. And I even told him that he was starting to look like a swallow, but he is like the world's expert on swallows with the kindest heart ever. And he goes all over America and studies the behavior and the migration patterns and what's affecting them. And he was able to coach us and give us some really good scientific advice. And one of the things he told us about our swallows was, one, we had several species. 2, they were still here and they're down at the creek because that's where the water source was. 3, conditions like drought and development deter the migratory patterns. And then 4, the thing I had no idea about, and I would have handled it if I'd known, was that the little birds would come in their little mud condominiums, we call them, and they have their eggs. In the mating season is in March when they come in, and then they leave in October. But there were parasites that would grow in the little condominium mud house, and the parasites would get onto the baby birds and make it so that they couldn't progress and live. So I had no idea that we needed to fumigate our swallow's nest, because who thinks like that? So Dr. Brown said, you know, you have to have a pest management system in place for any of the nests that continue. And we've had a couple nests built in the last few years from the swallows. So those kind of impacts the development, the pollution, the water, the drought for sure. And then the parasites are reasons why perhaps the swallows weren't coming to Mission San Juan Capistrano, but they were still coming to the Capistrano Valley. And they were going over to where we call the Villas, or Avenida de la Vista. And it's a parallel street to the creek, and they would grab their mud and build their little houses. So we have a whole bunch of information about the swallows on our website, which is missionsjc.com. But Dr. Brown will come back in the future and return to doing tours. He would always do a lecture every year. You used to report for us in other places in the past, and he would be sometimes your guest. And so we really think highly of his science and his recommendations to us on what we can do better.
And you have many ways people can support the mission, such as memberships.
Yeah, people always say, what's the ways? How can I help? And I think the number one way you can help is, hey, we're here. Don't take the mission for granted. It's not just for Catholics. It's not just for fourth graders. We have a lot of fun programming, and with the COVID and the pandemic, I think we'll be rolling out some new and even more, some refreshed programming. Now's the time to reevaluate. So you can just know we're here and say, I'm going to bring Aunt Virginia here next time she visits. We're affordable, we're wholesome. I promise you'll find love and romance and excitement here of history, because there's so many vintagey experiences that you're going to find something, whether it's, oh, I love that painting, or, oh, look at that Mary Pickford image from 1910 when she got married, or look at the birds, look at the butterflies. It's just, you're going to have a great time. So plan a visit. That's the cheapest and easiest way to support us, and we really appreciate it. The other thing you can do is join a membership. It's renewable. We're going to extend while we're closed, the dates of expiration for anybody that wants it. And it gives you a chance. You can come here and sketch. You can do a journal. You can have coffee. You can meet a friend and be somewhere special that's in Orange County behind the walls and be in an oasis of history. You can always make a gift. And there's no gift that is too little. Sometimes people think, oh, I can't make a gift. I'm embarrassed. I can only afford $5 or $10. Well, if everybody gave $2, we would be out of this crisis we're in. So when you start adding up the numbers, it would be really significant. So I always say every gift matters, especially if it's given from the heart. And our gifts can go for restricted purposes. So it could be greatest need, or which is going to get us back open. Or maybe you're like, oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm going to give a gift to art conservation. Or one of my favorite things ever is supporting children and supporting learners. And so we have an Adopt a Class program where we fund the field trip experience through donations. It helps to pay for the staff to do the bookings and the arrival and the tour and the experience, or the virtual tour. So there's a lot of things that you can do, which is either visit, don't take for granted, join membership, make a gift of any amount, and just don't drive by the wall and think you're not welcome here. Everybody is welcome that has peace and goodwill in their heart.
Michelle, how do you want to be perceived?
How do I want to be perceived? Oh, that's a complicated, maybe a question over wine, but I know that I'm a passionate leader, and I know that personally, I know I'm competent, and I have built an awesome team. And I think I would want to be perceived as a female leader in the community. It's a very tough community at times, and there are many choices of things to support. I think making a difference is, what we leave behind, and what we leave behind for others to enjoy and experience. And so I know that for me, it's what we leave behind for our kids and the next generation. And I want to be perceived as competent in meeting that goal.
Thank you, Mission San Juan Capistrano Executive Director Michelle Lawrence Adams, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Dawn.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.